like it or not, we are in a buyer's market when it comes to the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. And sellers, you need to adjust your expectations because buyers right now have all the leverage. And as you can see here, we're at 9% right now, basically, of sales to active listings. So only 9% of the listings sell. And we haven't seen this since late 2012. So it's been quite a few years since we've seen this type of market. And what does this all mean? And what do you have to do if you're a buyer or a seller? We're going to get into all of that. We're going to look at some good graphs that I think really explain what's happening here and what we can expect going into the fall. And so the first graph I want to look at here is home prices. Now, they've been constantly on a decline since literally last year of April. We can see that in the black graph here, which is last year's data, the blue graph being this year's data, and we're just on a constant decline of home prices here. We're most likely going to see that continue here on into the fall. There's no question about that. And then the next thing I want to talk about is new listings. And so this is where buyers are going to have more opportunities and sellers are going to have more competition. And we've literally following the exact same trend as last year. It's kind of hysterical almost because every city, every place, more or less, September comes, there's more activity. There's more new listings that hit the market. There's people who've gone on vacation. They're coming back. They're like, let's go put our house on the market and see if we can't sell it before winter comes. And that kind of matches or mirrors the total inventory as well, right? We have a bit of a peak in June. Well, I guess this month or this year was, this year was June. Last year was kind of a sliding scale all the way up to September. But usually there's two peaks, one in the spring, one in the fall. And so we're going to see more inventory. So again, buyers are going to have more options. Sellers are going to have more competition. And prices, they're not going to go up. Let's just be real. Let's just call it what it is. And then the only saving grace for sellers really is that sales tend to go up. And so right now, if your home is on the market and you're wondering, hey, is my home ever going to sell? Well, sales tend to increase during the fall months. And so if you have if you have a buyer come into your property and you're like really close to getting the deal done, I would think twice about potentially just trying to make that work or trying to make that sale, because this is going to be your best option when it comes into trying to sell your property. Because buyers right now, as we've seen here, there's lots of new listings coming into the market this time of year. There's a lot more inventory they have to choose from. And we're also at like record highs for inventory. And so keep that in mind as well. Buyers have a lot of options right now. Now, I do want to just sidestep real quick and just show you the graph back from like 2005 of home, basically the benchmark prices for homes. And as you can see here, we had the crazy jump here in COVID, crazy dip right afterwards. And now it's leveled off, but now we're kind of seeing we're peering over the edge here of home prices sliding down. And so what I want to get into now, because that was just prices, sales, new listings across the residential market, homes, townhomes, and condos. And so you might be wondering, well, what does that apply to the detached market, the condo market, the townhome market? We're going to get into all of that. And then don't forget at the end, I'm going to basically give my 2 cents on where I think the market's going and what you should do if you're a buyer or a seller. So the first segment I want to get into is the detached market. But this is the graph for the residential detached properties here in the Fraser Valley. And as you can see here, we had a little bit of a increase in July, but now we're kind of, again, facing down the September, October, November, December, which last year there was a bit of an increase, which was interesting. I don't see it happening this year, truthfully. I think we're going to see a slow decline here, and it's most likely just going to level off when it comes to the fall and the winter months. But as you can see here, June, July, August, June there was a decrease. July there was a slight increase, and then August, bit more of a decrease there as well. And then sales have continued to come down. The actives have continued to come down, and that's most likely going to change a little bit here in September as the September comes and we get September's data. Is that I imagine there's going to be more active listings in the market now. Are more sales going to happen? Again, if you look at the historical data, it says it's going to happen, but we'll have to wait and see what happens on that one. And then the sales to active listings ratio is what I was talking about earlier there, that how it's the buyer's market. And so just to recap on that real quick on that first graph there is that 20% or higher, it's a seller's market, meaning out of 10 homes, for every 2 homes on the market, they sell. And that basically means there's a lot more buyers buying things, and so sellers have more of an advantage. And now right now, we're sitting at an 8.8%, meaning there's a lot more in favor of buyers because there's a lot of inventory and not much of it selling. And so what they say is that if that happens over a continued period of time, prices have to come down because there's just no one's buying anything. And so as we can see here from June, July, August, we're seeing that decrease in becoming more of a buyer's market in the detached market. But now let's move on to the residential attached. We're talking townhomes, row homes. Those are the type of homes what I'm talking about here. And as you can see here, ever since the beginning of the year, we've just been on a sliding scale downwards. Had a bit of an uptick there from the end of last year to the beginning of this year. But now we're just on a sliding scale downwards, and it's most likely going to continue in this sector as well. Sales have come down. Active listings have come down. Again, it says right here we're in a balanced market when it comes to the attached world or the townhomes and row homes. But as you can see here, we're going more and more towards the buyer's market in the attached segment. And then the last one I want to talk about is the condo and apartment sector. And as you can see here, prices from last year and prices from this year haven't changed that much. There was a bit of an up in prices last year of this time of year. And so it's just going to be interesting to see if we have that as well. I don't think so. I literally think that across all sectors, we're going to have a slow decline. It's going to flatline here in December. And then depending on what kind of world economic, who knows, will happen, will really dictate how 2026 is going to start here. But again, sales have come down, listings have come down a little bit, and then the sales to active listings ratio, well, it went from a balanced market, which is 12 to 20%, down to a buyer's market, which is what we're seeing across the board. Now, speaking of boards, I want to just comment on what the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board here is saying. And so declining prices in high inventory strengthens buyer's market heading into the fall. 100% agree with that. Fraser Valley home sales fell more than 20% in August, but buyers who did not get into the market were able to take advantage of favorable conditions, including abundant choices, softer prices, and more time to make decisions. I'm seeing that as well. As myself working with clients and just other realtors I'm talking to, we have time to negotiate. We have time to think about things, which is great for the buyers. The Fraser Valley real estate buyers market remains strong with inventory levels holding relatively stable, just down 2% to that many listings. New listings homes declined 19% month over month. And the overall sales to active listings ratio for August dropped to 9%, down 2% from July. The market is considered balanced when the ratio is between 12 and 20%. So I mentioned that earlier. So we're well in a buyer's market, which we haven't seen this type of, let's call it sales to active listings ratio since late 2012. The current market conditions are allowing buyers the opportunity to make bold offers. I laugh because I'm making one right today, especially for properties that have been on the market for a while. And while sellers may be more motivated, says the chair, as in all transactions, timing is everything, and we expect to see more buyers come off the sidelines heading into the fall to take advantage of the lower prices or of the lower price floor. And that's true. We've seen like historical data just from last year, but like again, I look at data across Canada and it's all the same thing. Fall, September, October, a little bit of increase in new listings, total listings and sales. Not so much prices though. Prices haven't followed that trend, and I don't see that happening anytime soon either. Across the Fraser Valley in August, the average number of days to sell a condo was 41 days, while the single family was 38 days, and townhomes took an average of 32 days to sell. Now, it's always interesting because there's like a consecutive days on market, because it's like you have the listing, it gets relisted, then this number gets reset. But the consecutive days, it's going to be a lot higher than this, right? You have a property that comes on the market, it gets relisted, well, that number gets reset. Even though it was on the market for 100 days prior, it only says, 30 days. And so it's a bit of a skewed stat, in my opinion. The economic uncertainty that has shaped the housing market for much of 2025 now seems to have been factored into market dynamics, as evidenced by sustained softening of prices. Some buyers who've been holding off are starting to recognize that waiting for greater certainty could mean missing opportunities, particularly in a market where conditions now clearly favor buyers. And so what would I say to this? I 100% would agree with this. It's funny because I don't always agree with what the board says. But when it comes to the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, where I'm located, I tend to agree with this. And so as promised, what does this actually mean for you? We've gone over a bunch of information here. So if you're buying in 2025, here's what I got to say to you. Listings are still high. And we're gonna be seeing more listings coming to the fall here as we see in the data there previously. So you're gonna have more choices. And so if you're worried like, man, all the options on the market right now aren't that good, well, you're gonna get more listings coming here into the fall. Activity trends upwards in the fall. So again, more activity doesn't mean prices are gonna go up. So this could be a good opportunity for you because prices, like I mentioned here, are trending downwards. And so the interesting thing is what we'll probably see is there's going to be homes in the market that are priced right. And there's going to be more buyers in the market as well. And so with those properties that are newer, priced right, expect some competition. So what I always say here is still important to get pre-approved. I want you to go to a bank, go to a mortgage lender, whoever, and go hash out the numbers. Make sure that whatever property you're going to be looking at, you can afford. Because the last thing you want to do is find a property you really like. It just came on the market and you go through all this work and you can't afford or you can't remove subjects on the property. And so that's what I would give to you if you were thinking about buying here in 2025. If you're thinking about selling in the fall of 2025 here in the Fraser Valley, this is what I would say to you. So the first thing being is you need to price it right from the start. There's no sense asking some crazy amount of money for your property or more than the market value is willing to pay, because I truly believe you're only going to be kicking yourself in the butt. I always like to use this analogy. You have the market pricing here and you are pricing it up here and you go on the market and all the buyers are going to see that property like, well, okay, it's a little overpriced because they're going to have realtors who have all the data that everyone else has access to. And they're going to say, this is too much. And well, you're going to negotiate and you might get close, but then all of a sudden the market, next month's data comes out and the market slipped down even farther. And then finally you decide to lower your price, but you're still above what the market's willing to pay. And so you have this like chasing the market down where 6 months goes by and the first offer you got is higher than what you're listed at now or the 6 months later. And I've seen that I literally had a client, I did a cold list on a property and it was exactly what happened. They had an offer, it wasn't willing to accept it, which is more than fine. But then a month goes by, 2 months go by, and we're below where that offer came in. And so got to price it right from the start, but then you also need to make your home stand out. It's so important. You're up against a lot of competition. Listings are at an all-time high. And so you need to make your home stand out, whether that's like taking beautiful pictures, setting up the home, staging the home, doing the landscaping. And what I always like to say is like, you need to fix what's broken. There's like the last thing you want to do is a buyer to go on the property and maybe your home is a little bit higher price than it should be. But then there's a whole bunch of things in their mind. They're looking at like the doorknobs aren't working, the deck is dirty, this is happening, this fascia board is all a little bit rotten. And so what I would say is fix what's broken so that when people come to your property, they're like, wow, this property's been well maintained. And then be ready for more activity. And so this is, I think, an important point to make. We're coming into the fall where we looked at the data there and there's more listings, more activity, or activity meaning more listings and more new listings, and there's more sales. And so this may be your only opportunity to have some buyers come off the sidelines and look at your home and put an offer. Because when it comes into the winter times, it just drops off like drastically. And so if you really do want to sell your home in 2025 here, take the offers that come seriously. Take them, negotiate, and hopefully you can make something work, because this is going to be your best opportunity. And the next point here is just stay flexible on terms, because again, this is the last opportunity you're going to have to hopefully get your home sold, because there's going to be a lot more people looking, buying, because we have the data to prove that. And then you need to know your reason for selling, because the last thing you want to do is go through all of this work, all of this could be turmoil, could be pain, could be good, and not sell your home. And I'm not saying you can't change your mind or life circumstances changes and now you don't want to sell your home. You just don't want to go through all this stuff and then not sell your home. Now I'm curious, do you think I'm way out to lunch? Do you agree? What are you seeing out there that confirms or denies what I'm saying here? Because I live here in the Fraser Valley and this is what I'm seeing. Now, what I'm also interested in, and kind of on a side note here, is if there's any kind of stats, figures that you would like to see, because I'm always trying to improve these stats, always trying to improve what's happening here. But before I let you go, I just want to show you this super cool tool that I've been using for a little bit now. And it's a home evaluation tool. And I'm sure you're like, okay, Rich, I've seen home evaluation tools before. This one's a little different that it instantly gives you results. You don't have to wait for someone to call you back. You don't have to talk to me. And so it's literally zero conversation home evaluation. And so what I want to do real quick is just use my phone here. I'm going to scan this QR code right now. It's going to pop up this screen here. What's my home worth? Get your home value in 10 seconds. It's literally less than that. But I guess if you include the time to fill it out, it's about 10 seconds. So I got realtor.ca loaded up here, and I'm literally just going to like zoom in on the property here. This one right here looks good. So let's just copy the address over. Go back to the, search again here. Put in the property. Oh, no, don't autofill. Hold on here. We're getting crazy. Email, phone number, send it. And I'm literally going to go to my email box. Oh, got Fortis BC telling me to pay some money. Oh, perfect. $1,248,000 here. And so it's listed slightly above here. And let me just curious to see how many days on market. Over a year. So this property is most likely overpriced just a little bit here, but that's just to show you what you can do. You can compare it to active listings here on realtor.ca, or if you're thinking about wondering what your home is worth yourself, by all means, put your information in and we'll get you the home evaluation here in a matter of seconds. And literally just grabs the solds, the actives. There's a little bit of AI involved as well. So it's pretty cool. And just full disclosure that I will be getting your information and it's just me, nobody else. And so I will reach out and see if you need any help. And if you don't, I'm more than happy. I'll move on my way. So don't need to worry about that. Now, what I will say is if you live in the Fraser Valley or you're thinking about purchasing the Fraser Valley, I'm more than happy to help you. I live in this area, know this area quite well. Or if you want some advice or just my 2 cents on what you should do or where you're at, because every situation is so different. So me just talking to the general public with this video is not going to be the proper advice, let's just put it that way, because every situation is slightly different. And if you want to stay up to date with what's happening here in the Fraser Valley, feel free to like and subscribe to this video so the algorithm does its thing and sends you more of my content. Or if you're curious on like what's happening in the remaining parts of Canada, I do market updates just like this one for Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Canada, a lot of the major cities here in Canada. So go check out those ones if you're interested as well. But as always, I appreciate you watching and I'll see you in the next one.